Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. This is The Next Reel, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and that there is Andy Nelson.
Radiating my penis.
And we spoil movies. Tonight on the show, the conclusion of our 2017 trans film series with the 2015 Tom Hooper film, The Danish Girl. You know what a great movie was, Andy?
What's that?
Hooper. Burt Reynolds.
I never saw it. I think of Mr. Hooper from Sesame Street.
No, you'd be wrong.
Oh, hello there, Ernie.
Before we get into that, you should learn more about us at thenextreel.com. Subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app or join us on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel. And if you've ever gone looking for Einar, but Lili wouldn't let you see him, then you might try to kill some time with The Next Reel's Instagram hashtag Guess the Movie Challenge.
And with that, since Games Master Stephen Smart is having his own portrait painted, let me fill you in on who won this week. The movie was The Woman in Red from 1984, directed by and starring Gene Wilder with Kelly LeBrock and Charles Grodin. The winner was Jay Weilander, who figured it out on Image 2. Congratulations.
And we got a blot spot in front of the show. Ben Lott wrote in with his rebound on Transamerica.
Sure, Felicity Huffman was excellent in Transamerica, but I did not enjoy the performance of Kevin Zegers or any of the Phoenix family. Also, I just can't stand heavy family dramas like this. It's a genre of film that I totally fail to connect with. After a while, it was like nails on a chalkboard, and when they visited Bree's family, it only got worse. This is a well-made film that is totally not for me. Your rank 175, my rank 244.
Ouch.
Yep.
That's smart.
I guess
what are you going to do? Sometimes movies don't connect.
Yeah.
I don't like the Phoenix family either.
Right. I guess he didn't find any of the comedy in there since he just felt it was a heavy family drama. Oh, well.
Andy, it's time. Let's do trailers.
My film, Pete, is Lowriders from it was released at the LA Film Festival in 2016. It's coming out later this year. This is a story about a young street artist in East LA who's caught between his father's obsession with the lowrider car culture, his ex-felon brother, and his need for self-expression. It doesn't sound like something I would normally be drawn to, but it looks interesting. It's a glimpse into worlds that I just have no sense of. You know, the graffiti culture, the lowrider car culture. I just don't, it's nothing I've ever clicked with. But I actually really enjoyed watching this trailer. I enjoyed these characters. I thought there was some interesting stuff going on with them. And then I saw Demian Bashir popping up in the trailer as the father, and that got me really excited because, ever since I saw him in A Better Life, I just think that he's just one of the greats. He's just really is a powerful actor. And then he pops up in, Tarantino's stuff. He's an actor who carries a lot of weight and is a very interesting figure to watch. And so this film, directed by Ricardo de Montreal, I'm not quite sure how you say his name, but he's a Peruvian director and who hasn't done a whole lot other than a few Peruvian films. But this looks like his big Hollywood breakout film. And so, I'm curious about it. It's one of those films that I guess I'm going to look at it kind of like Hustle and Flow, where it's going to introduce me to a world that I know nothing about, but hopefully one I can walk away with having some respect for and find that the characters are really compelling. That's what I'm kind of getting out of this trailer. Plus, Eva Longoria's in it. So, what do you think of it?
I'm right with you. I'm totally curious about it just because of the world that it inhabits. But Damian Bashir, absolutely. Also Theo Rossi, who is, I just adore this guy's work. He was Juan Carlos Ortiz in Sons of Anarchy. I didn't watch a lot of Sons of Anarchy, but he was great. And Luke Cage, he was Shades. Yeah. Alvarez in Luke Cage, and I thought he was great, especially in the bottom half of that season. I really liked him, his role. It was a little awkward. The first couple of episodes, he was a little awkward of a character for me, but I really thought he did a great job at it. And Melissa Benoist is in this film, which felt wildly out of character, having been watching her in Supergirl of late. So it's got a lot of things going for it. It looks like a really interesting story, and so I'm super in.
Yeah. Plus Tony Revolori's in it, who's popping up in the new Spider-Man soon, and he was just in Dope a couple years ago. So it's and of course Grand Budapest Hotel. So it's got a lot of things going for it. And as much as when I first heard about this, I kind of rolled my eyes, but then I watched the trailer and I was thinking, this actually looks like something I'm going to enjoy quite a bit. So there you go. Lowrider. It's coming out May 12th.
There you go. Mm-hmm. All right. My trailer, Andy, kind of snuck up on me. The film is called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. It stars Melanie Linsky, Elijah Wood, David Yao. It is written and directed by Macon Blair, and it is it's a very strange universe, filmed, dare I say this out loud, in Portland. Mm-hmm. So that should tell you something. When a depressed woman is burglarized, she finds a new sense of purpose by tracking down the thieves alongside her obnoxious neighbor, and they soon find themselves dangerously out of their depth against a pack of degenerate criminals. Her entire mission is to make sure that the world stops being such an asshole. And I think that is a fantastic premise for a movie. It has a tone that reminds me strangely of Zombieland in a way. Macon Blair is home to films like Blue Ruin. He wrote Small Crimes, which I think we've talked about, but he was also in Green Room and Murder Party and Gold with
McConaughey.
Yeah, McConaughey. So he's in Gold coming up, and so he's got kind of an interesting pedigree. Melanie Lynskey is so charming. She made her debut in Heavily Creatures back in 1994. She's been around for a long time, and always she's that girl, right? She's got that face, and is an excellent sort of friend. But I find her really charming in this lead role here too. So I'm very excited to see her in this. It looks weird. It looks like a weird, fun film. What do you think?
Yeah, it does have that sort of indie vibe with some quirky characters and a strange little mission to retrieve these stolen spoons. It sounds totally indie. But I like the vibe. I like the really strange characters that Melanie and Elijah both play, and just everybody has an interesting sense in this trailer. Macon Blair, I really enjoyed him in Blue Ruin. His part wasn't as big in Green Room, but I'm curious to see what he does as kind of the person behind the helm here, steering the ship, writing and directing this, and really kind of making this his own. And I think it looks really interesting. I love Melanie Lynskey, and it's great to see kind of her in a little project that she's taken on herself.
This film opened at Sundance just a few days ago, as we record this, 10 days ago, the 19th or so, and to great reviews. It is so far been well-liked. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 100% fresh. Of course, I think last time I checked, there were only like 7 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, but all 7 people liked it. And usually on the internet, it's hard to find 7 people who agree on anything. So it opens, actually Netflix picked it up, so it opens on February 24th on internet. So wherever you have internet, you should be able to check this out on Netflix. I think it's going to be worth watching. There you go.
Fantastic.
Radiation is a miracle, Andy. It destroys the bad and saves the good.
The first time we met, she propositioned me. She seemed so sure.
I was sure. He was so shy and mysterious. Is there something you'd like to tell me?
Is there something you'd like to know?
I'm your wife. I know everything. Could you help me with something?
You will not tell anyone about this.
He's lost his way. He needs a friend.
Let me help. I think Lily's thoughts. I dream her dreams. She was always there.
I need my husband. I need to hold my husband. Are you all right?
The fact is, I believe that I'm a woman.
And I believe it too.
The Danish Girl, Andy. Director Tom Hooper. Writers David Ebershoff wrote the book. Screenplay adaptation by Lucinda Coxon. Stars Eddie Redmayne, Alicia Vikander, Matthias Schonartz. What do you think? Schonartz? Ben Whishaw, Amber Heard, Sebastian Koch. It is a fictitious story of a true person. Reportedly one of the first people to undergo a male to female gender reassignment operation, and it happened in the late 1920s, early 1930s. The book, The Danish Girl, as I understand it, Andrew, is pretty much largely fiction. And now we have a movie based on a fictional story, which is retelling a true story. What is up with that?
We've talked about this when we talk about movies that are supposedly based on a true story. Here we have a true story that was fictionalized for the purpose of this book by David Ebershoff. That was, he said he wasn't even trying to tell the true story. He was just kind of imagining.
That is exactly the trick. That's the twist. We've never had that, where somebody is openly saying, I mostly made this up. He's totally open about it. It's not like they're trying to hide anything. They're not changing anything for dramatic purpose for the film, for the adaptation. He just made it up for the book.
Well, but the thing is, I think it's easier to get away with that with a novel. I mean, I think he can just kind of, he can say, oh yeah, it's just taking this, because he said he was imagining what the inner life of Lili Elba was like and fabricating everybody else and just kind of, making up this story because he wanted to tell this story about the turmoil, the inner turmoil that this character was going through. Now, when Tom Hooper finally came around to directing it, I think that he wanted to try to tell some of the truth, a little more than the book did. And actually, it sounded like they tried to pull some from that book that Lili had written. What was it called again?
Man into Woman.
I think that they ended up kind of advertising it as based on a true story, but there was so much of it that wasn't true. It's almost like I feel like the filmmakers might have been better off just keeping it in line with what Ebershoff was doing with the novel, as opposed to trying to make it a true story, but really just not.
Yeah. Well, and in that regard, I mean, here you start watching the film, and you make whatever connection you make with it, and then you start learning about it and realizing that it wasn't, it's actually fiction based on fiction, and you wonder how much justice is doing to raising awareness of the cause of the transgender community. So it makes me at least feel like I'm in better touch with the with some of the criticism of the film and how it was made. Now, was it a good film? Like, how did it hold up to you separate from the issue of the adaptation?
Well, and this was my first viewing of it, and I thought it was fine. I mean, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was, for me, it just felt, it's in a weird place because it felt like what I get from some films that are based on true stories, like biopics, where I'm like, okay, that was an interesting view into their life. I'm glad I know that about that person now. Even if I didn't really love the film and probably won't return to it. But then when you read about it and you learn about it, it's like, well, okay, but then I'm not really learning about much of the truth of the people. So where does that leave me? And so, I mean, I enjoyed it at the time, but after the fact, it's like, well, I kind of wish that I learned a little bit more about the actual people. So it's a weird place to be in the end of this film,
I do. I am still wildly conflicted about this movie. And the second time watching it, I didn't get any better because there are some elements that I do love, that I really adore, and specific elements and that keep me connected to this film. And overall, the film is less than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Which I find so disappointing, right? I find it actively frustrating because there are some things I hold in such high esteem, and yet, boy, do I find that it drags in places for long stretches I want to be just through, and so that was challenging for me. So we mentioned a little bit about the fact that this was the adaptation by Lucinda Coxon. What did you think of the way the script was architected? Knowing that I'm assuming that neither of us have written or have read any of the or source material. She's also written Wild Target and The Heart of Me. Neither of those are films that I have seen. Heart of Me was 2002, Wild Target 2010.
It's I mean, I think it's fine. Again, separating from the true story, I think the story is an interesting one. It certainly is a nice glimpse into kind of an inner turmoil that this particular person, Einar, is going through as he is realizing that as he kind of discovers through this happenstance where he has to pose for his wife's paintings in women's clothing, that really he connects with it, and all of a sudden it kind of creates this shift in him, and he realizes that he's kind of a woman inside. It was a very interesting transformation, and I actually really enjoyed those elements about his just kind of exploration and learning and trying to figure out exactly what was going on. But it was interesting because I did read some people who kind of complained about the script and how this was Kyle Buchanan writing in Vulture, complaining that this was part of a trend of queer and trans films that are actually about straight people, which I thought was kind of a funny way to look at this. I'm like, well, it does really. We are seeing this whole story through Gerda's eyes. This is his wife, played by Alicia Vikander. And then I learned that there, in the actual history, it sounds like she possibly was a lesbian and might have actually been drawn to Lili when he kind of made that transformation, and just like all this stuff that's like they clearly didn't explore at all. So it's strange. It makes for a really strange script. And again, I'm kind of getting off tangent again, but I think I enjoy kind of some of the elements that Lucinda put into this story, trying to kind of create this story and craft this journey that Einar is taking as he transforms into a she and becomes Lili. But that being said, I do wonder if there were better ways to approach it.
Now, I wonder. You say that you felt like they didn't really explore the potential angle that Gerda was a lesbian and sort of fancied the feminization of Lili. I'm not sure I agree with that, especially in the beginning. I think so much of what I like about both of the portrayals of these characters by Vikander and Redmayne is that they're both struggling with their own identity, right? I mean, they're struggling with who they are, and I think that's one of the things that this film really does well in a way that the other two films that we've watched in this series have already sort of moved beyond, right? I mean, the protagonists in those films are already sort of settled in their direction. There's no there's no going back. There's no and this film is at a different point in our protagonists' struggle with identity, with gender identification, and discovering that he is a she at a place that we haven't seen before. And from the outside, I appreciated seeing that struggle and seeing the way Eddie Redmayne portrayed it. I think he did an exceptional job there. If that was the goal, I really like that. And to Alicia Vikander's credit, I found her as such a wildly enthusiastic enabler that it was pretty clear to me early on, especially on second viewing, that she was also dealing with some maybe settled identity issues. I don't think they never really said anything overt, but at least in the beginning, it was so easy for her to get around the fact that this was going on in her husband. That it felt more like more than just sort of kinky bedroom play for her, like her reaction to it, her enthusiasm about it, and her adopting it. It felt too natural. Like it really felt like they were sort of saying something there.
Well, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I do see all of that, and I did feel like they had some of that exploration. And I guess my sense was that it wasn't so much that that they were saying, hey, she might have some lesbian leanings here, but it was actually like she was just so in love with Einar that it's like, it almost was at this interesting place where she wasn't really sure how she felt anymore, whether he was showing up as Einar or as Lili, and it was an interesting exploration for her. I didn't see it as, like we never see her outside of that relationship finding interest in women, and I guess that's kind of that side of it that they didn't explore. And I guess like some of her artwork has that tone to it and everything. And so I don't know. I mean, they didn't necessarily need to lean in those directions to kind of give the film a totally different overall tone. I think the film tells a story about these characters. Like you said, these are really interesting characters. I find both Einar / Lili and Gerda very interesting, and their relationship is a really touching relationship, and it's nice getting to explore it on screen with them. I guess my sense is that I just wonder if Lucinda, in all the iterations of the script that she wrote over the 15 years it came to actually get this thing made, if it might have been a stronger film if they had just stuck with more of the truth. But it's so hard to say.
That I think is I think that is the better question. Would it have enabled them to tell the story in a way that actually met more more needs kind of cinematically, right? Or connect with more people kind of emotionally. I think there's definitely a case to be made there. Tom Hooper as a director. It seems like this thing jumped through a lot of hands before it landed in his.
Yeah, actually, at the very beginning, I believe when Lucinda started writing this script in 2000, I think it was Neil LaBute who actually first optioned the book and had her start working on it. And it took a couple years to get it into place and everything. And then I think that it went back and forth quite a bit, trying to find the right people to helm it. I think after Neil LaBute left, I think Nicole Kidman was attached for a while to actually play Einar. She was going to produce, and they couldn't find somebody to play Gerda. I think Thomas Alfredson came on, I think it was right before Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, but that didn't happen. And then Lasse Hallström was set to direct, and then Anand Tucker was set to direct. And finally, Tom Hooper read the script, and he claimed to have cried 3 times when he read it. He was so touched by it, and he knew that he had to direct it. And in all this time of all these different people involved, there were like 20-some different iterations of the script. And Tom Hooper ended up going back to one of the very early drafts of the script. And, he's an interesting director. He's done Les Mis. He's done some other interesting films. And I think that he's got some definite skill with how he tells his stories. Here, if anything, I think that there might be some more script issues that just kind of bog the film down a bit, pacing wise, and just kind of keeping things moving. But I do think Tom Hooper has a really good handle on how to just kind of put stuff on screen. I love his compositions, especially in this film about these two painters. I felt he really built some beautifully composed shots they felt like paintings, or felt like they had been framed as if a painting. A lot of that, and some really beautiful shallow depth of field shots. I love those POV shots when Einar first puts the stockings on. You get those beautiful POV shots, really narrow depth of field of him feeling the leg in the stocking. You can really get a sense of the character. And so I just enjoyed the way that he put it together.
That is the thing that attracts me the most to this film above any of the performances, which I think are exceptional in many places. The way this film looks, it is a work of art. I credit to Hooper and to Danny Cohen, cinematographer. It is as beautiful a job of just shooting and framing and lighting, compositing, everything about the look of this film I am enamored by. I can't let it go. You mentioned the very shallow depth of field, but the very wide depth of field when they're doing these long shots down the apartment, the corridor of the apartment, where it looks like this incredible 2D mat of just everything is in crisp focus down 3 hallways until somebody walks in the room and you realize, oh my God, it's not a still. It's not a postcard. It's an actual moving image. It is, I find it just stunning in so many ways, and with some wonderfully surprising framings, putting the actors, the focal point in the frame, in a very strange place in the frame, but not so aggressive as you might get in some other of the more sort of avant-garde films that we've talked about, or film noir. Like, we end up with just some really tastefully and artistically composited frames that I'm just so touched by, which makes it so hard for me to say I'm never going to come back to this film because I just like the look of it so much. I may just turn the volume down and let it play. It's a, if nothing else, it's an incredible screensaver.
Yeah.
Is that a huge insult?
No, I think that speaks to the film, though. It's beautifully done, but it could use some story boost to kind of give us a little more interest in the actual story going on here.
Yeah, technically, it is a masterpiece. I think it's just fantastic.
Yes.
First shot, last shot, Andy.
Oh, first shot. So the first shot is, we have this chilly landscape. It's kind of a field. There's a little creek running through it, some yellow flowers in the foreground, some bugs flying through, leading into a series of other cold landscape shots, really beautifully composed. Again, I love particularly the that creepy tree that has no leaves from the fall. We have the reflection of it in the lake. A lot of beautiful, cold, just landscape shots before we settle on this shot of the cliff with some sun shining through some clouds, where we get the title screen.
And the last shot, we have followed Hans and Gerda. They are standing high on this cliff they're in Lili's hometown, and this is where many of the shots from the first shot were taken. And they're standing on this cliff. They discover that they're in this location, and Gerda's scarf. This is the same scarf that has been handed back and forth between Lili and Gerda through the course of the film. It's blown off of her neck and is swept away in the wind, and it is whipping around. We're intercutting between Gerda's face saying, "Let it fly," and she starts to cry, and the last shot is the scarf is heading out to sea. It is free. It is a free scarf.
It is free.
And that is the last shot as the end
litterbug.
credits roll. She just let it go. What'd you think? How did these things relate?
Well, definitely we get a sense. Initially, I was kind of questioning these landscapes, and then I learned right away that this is a painter, and he paints these kind of old, cold landscapes. And it's almost as if these were inspiration. But I liked how it was like a landscape that was kind of frozen in its place. And then at the end, we have the same landscape that we've returned to now at the end, but we've got this little glimpse of freedom flying through. It's as if we've seen a transformation of Einar into Lili over the course of the film, from the kind of the frozen on the inside to now having this little glimmer of life. And so I thought it was nice. I liked that connection.
I did too, and I also liked the way it was played by Vikander too. And in Gerda's case, she actually sort of resolves her transformation too, right? And she is in love with this other man, and they're sort of able to say goodbye in a place that was obviously important to Lili, because they've now witnessed the 5 trees and the sort of valley that Lili had been painting throughout the course of the first act of the film, which I thought was very touching. I thought it was a really nice resolution. And I think it really demonstrates what the appreciation, as you say, of the art and the source of inspiration for the artwork. I think that was handled really well between the first shot and the last shot. They sort of bookend the beauty of the landscape that these people are trying to capture in paint. I think it was lovely.
It kind of reminded me actually of Never Let Me Go. Just I think the tone, the color tone and everything,
Yeah. I can totally see that. Yeah. Yep. Casting by Nina Gold. Obviously got Eddie Redmayne in there. You mentioned that Nicole Kidman was set to star in here. In addition to, Marion Cotillard. That would have been a different thing. My question to you around casting of Eddie Redmayne, before we get into what you think of his performance as Lili and Einar, is do you think it makes a difference to you whether the actor playing the part is a woman or a man, now that we have discussed Transamerica?
This is always going to be the question. I mean, you're always going to have this coming up, and it'll be interesting to see how this conversation gets shaped decades from now, as potentially more people or transgenders are a bigger part of our community. Who knows how things are going to change? But now, I know there are transgender actors and actresses out there. I just don't know who they are. And I think the question is, would it have been more appropriate for a woman to play this character like Nicole Kidman and have her kind of playing a man and then trying to make that transformation into a woman, having a man playing a man, or having an actual somebody who isn't a cisgender, as they call it, somebody who's born a man and is a man, actually playing the part. And I just don't even know anymore. Honestly, it's like I don't know.
I've given up.
It's so hard to tell. I mean, for me, it's going to boil down to, is it okay for a British person to play an American? Is it okay for an American to play an Asian? I mean, in the world of acting, actors are always looking for challenges. And this is certainly, regardless of how you play it, it's going to create interesting challenges for these actors. Does it make it right for them to portray them? I don't know. in the sense of where we were with Transamerica, where Bree had already gone through some surgeries, so is a lot closer to being a woman than a man, I think it did make more sense to have Felicity Huffman playing that. In this particular case, we start the film with Einar as a male. I guess it made sense to have Eddie Redmayne playing it. So, I guess that's where I let it rest.
I had trouble because Eddie Redmayne in this film, knowing where the film goes, ultimately, Eddie Redmayne is able to affect such an effeminate sort of persona or demeanor anyway. I found it really sometimes hard to tell. And maybe that's clearly to his credit that he's an amazingly talented character performer. But I found him uniquely positioned to play this role in particular, to embody the more feminine aspects as he was learning and starting to practice, which I thought was a really touching part of the film, right? Where he's starting to practice, like learning to be a woman. We talked last week about the challenges that go into becoming a woman, as demonstrated by the trans consultants that were helping him in Transamerica, helping Felicity to adapt to the role. You could really see it here, and it was interesting to see it all played out in this period. I thought he just did a fantastic job. Did you? Were you connected to Eddie? Did you find he delivered the goods?
Oh, absolutely. I thought he was just spectacular in the performance. And you're right. He really made that transformation believable, going from Einar to Lili. But his those moments where he was kind of realizing, like having these moments, like when he does put that stocking on, like I mentioned earlier, or is wearing the clothes, and like even that discovery when she starts taking off his clothes and realizes that he's wearing that slip of hers underneath it, and it's just like, it's almost like he wanted her to discover it, right? He doesn't back away from it. He's not shy about it. He's just like letting it be there and letting her discover it and seeing what she does about it. But he's just kind of brazen enough to move forward with it. I found him so compelling. And then when he kind of finds this relationship with Henrik as he kind of is flirting with that, and the idea of being a woman in Henrik's eyes, only to be kind of dashed when Henrik reveals that he's actually gay, and it's almost like this little game that he's playing with Einar.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just really enjoyed all those elements that Eddie was bringing to the script here, and I felt it was very compelling all of the time.
How about Vikander? I'll tell you, as Gerda, she hit me the wrong way in the first 15 minutes of the film.
Why is that?
I had a tough time acclimating to her performance. I felt she was a little bit, and I'm speaking, I think mostly to my sense memory of her the first time I saw the film. I thought she was too bull in a china shop. It was too much, too over the top. It was just too much. The second time I saw the film, knowing kind of what I was getting, I acclimated to her much more quickly, and I thought her aggressiveness was such a delightful and sort of masculating trait to the effeminance of Redmayne's portrayal. Like they were well paired for the journey that they were about to take together, and I don't think I saw that coming the first time I saw the film. The second time, it was much easier to kind of grab hold of what she was going for.
I thought she was great. I really enjoyed her in this film. She's one of those actresses that for me just seems to have really come out of nowhere the last few years, and just everything she does, she just is really hitting it out of the park.
God, she can do anything.
I know. It's like from this to The Man from U.N.C.L.E. she's just great, except for Jason Bourne. But she's pretty spectacular in this film, and I really felt her curiosity about this whole thing. And I think the scene that really hit me with her was when she was talking to Lili and it's just like, look, I just want to talk to my husband again. Can you bring him out? I just need to talk to Einar again. And Lily's just like, I just can't. And that was so heartbreaking. It's almost like this game that they had been playing, and it's almost like she's kind of hit this point where she's realized it isn't really a game, and she's stuck in this, and this is how it is now. And it was really, I don't know, it just really kind of struck a chord with me.
You know if Alicia Vikander and Noomi Rapace have ever done anything together?
I don't think so.
That would be a film I would see. 'Cause the way we describe Alicia Vikander, like they just came out of nowhere. That's the exact same feeling I get with Noomi Rapace, like just out of nowhere and can do anything.
Yeah, well, that is very true. They should be in something together.
They should be in something together. Somebody put them in a movie together.
I think it's interesting to picture Charlize Theron, Gwyneth Paltrow, Uma Thurman, Marion Cotillard, Rachel Weisz as Gerda. They were all people who at one point in time had either been considered or had signed on. And I don't know. I really, it's one of those things, you never really can exactly picture somebody else doing it once you've kind of locked somebody else in. But there are some
You can't picture Marion Cotillard?
Oh, I
can't picture
her.
Marion Cotillard doing this? Yeah. I could picture her in a heartbeat, yeah.
Yeah, Rachel Weisz I can.
Yeah.
Uma Thurman, Charlize, Gwyneth, I have a harder time.
How about Matthias Schoenaerts as Hans Axel?
He's an interesting actor. I mean, his part's not huge, but I enjoy the role he plays here. I had seen him in Rust and Bone, which I enjoyed quite a bit, and The Drop, which I can't remember him in that, but I know he was in it. I find him compelling. I think his part of the film was an interesting twist. But there wasn't a lot there, so I guess I don't have a lot to say about him. But I mean, I like him as an actor.
Me too. I thought he was great. I thought he actually was a wonderful grounding influence, and it was always. I found that that's one of the things that they did well in terms of delivering these little turns of unexpected heart in the film after Redmayne gets beaten up, or Einar gets beaten up in Germany.
Paris.
Who does he choose to, or Paris, I'm sorry. He goes to Paris, he gets beaten up. Who does he choose to go to? This person that he's essentially been hiding from for the most of the second act. And this is the guy who sits down and it patches him up and gives him that sense of just sort of love and caring that he really needs and as he's on this journey and trying to find help. And then Hans becomes this caretaker, kind of a proxy, and works. I think he's just totally believable. I mean, he is a wonderful character.
Absolutely,
it's interesting to think about the trans tropes that we started mulling over last time. Who it was a funny one. I was thinking about the hunky straight guy who falls in love with the transgender character,
right?
And I thought, man, right out of the gate, we get it in this one with the guy what's his name, who falls in love with her in the open, Ben Whishaw. Yeah, Ben Whishaw right away. And it turns out, oh no, he's actually gay. Well, that's a funny little twist, right? What a great twist on a list of tropes that I hadn't even fully fleshed out yet.
It really was. And I actually didn't even think about that because it was I don't know, it was interesting the way that he was playing it, because you couldn't quite tell, like, what was had he figured it out, or was he convinced that it was a girl? I know that even Einar has that conversation with Gerda about he thinks he might have known that it was him, but he couldn't tell. It was interesting.
Yeah, I thought he was great. And speaking of Ben Whishaw, what a fantastic actor in his own right. We know him obviously from the recent round of James Bond movies. He is Q. He is also in, he was in The Lobster recently.
He's Paddington.
He was Paddington. Oh, no kidding. I had not made that connection. I was trying to figure out, wasn't he in Sherlock?
I don't know. I haven't seen any of those. The TV show?
I'm sorry, what? God. Andy.
I know.
Like around every corner, there's some sort of massive pop culture thing. You see the most obscure stuff and you miss the big ones.
I know, it's terrible. I'll watch them in like 10 years.
I know you will. That's the pain. The pain. Anyway, I like Ben Whishaw a lot. He wasn't in, I don't think he was in Sherlock. I think I'm misplacing him. He was in the Heart of the Sea.
He was in Cloud Atlas.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, he was.
Everybody's favorite.
Anyway, he was great. Who else do we have on the list? I lost my tabs. After Ben Whishaw, we have Amber Heard.
Amber Heard, she's in it, but it's one of those little parts that I apparently there was more of her in it that was left on the cutting room floor. She just has a few scenes. I mean, she's the friend. She's the nice character that kind of helps them define Lili and is in on the secret right from the beginning. I mean, she's fine. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, that was Amber Heard. Like, I didn't even realize that it was her until after I was reading the credits.
She came in the sexy dress, and then she was gone. Just gone. And Sebastian Koch as Dr. Kurt Varnekros.
An interesting character in the film. He's the doctor who finally, lets Einar know you are actually a woman and helps him through these transformations. So what's interesting is that he was actually a Nazi, and then at the time that all of this, or shortly after, before all this started happening, the Nazis did a book burning at the Institute for Sexual Science in May 1933, and they destroyed all of the Dresden Women's Clinic and the records in the Allied bombing raids of February 45, and all of this kind of destroyed a lot of what was written about the life of Lili. And that was, I thought, a really interesting little glimpse into this, a part of this world that we don't touch at all in this, is that he was actually a Nazi. And this is how we really lost a lot of information about Lili because the Nazis kind of destroyed a lot. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Wow.
It was interesting that her book actually did end up making it out.
We mentioned the controversy up front, about the trans actors, the trans roles, and you said again it was the same sort of point we made last week. Like, we just don't know how deep the bench is of actors of name and notoriety that could pull off a part like these parts. But there were a lot of trans characters, extras and secondary characters in this film. Yes.
Yeah, according to Tom Hooper, more than 40 trans people were involved in the film, supporting actors, extras, hoping to inspire more trans people to pursue a career in entertainment. I think there was one, Rebecca Root. She played one of Lili's nurses. Jake Graff, he's a transgender man, played a small part next to Matthias at the art gallery when Gerda's showing off her portraits. So, I mean, they were there. It's just, they're not the ones carrying the film. I mean, inevitably it's going to fall to who's going to bring the money at the box office. Eddie Redmayne had won an Oscar. There are reasons that people, I guess, cast him.
He's an incredibly talented performer.
Yes, he is. And I think we'd add that to the list of reasons he's cast. Yeah, he's very talented, but he's also got a box office clout. And I mean, he had a working relationship with Tom Hooper already. They'd worked together twice on Les Mis and on Elizabeth I. So
hair and makeup, Jan Sewell was working with Eddie again. This is a follow-up to their work together in The Theory of Everything. And by all rights, that was a stunning turn of makeup in that film. They shot it all over Europe.
Yeah, they shot it in Denmark.
Comment on locations?
Yeah, Denmark, Belgium, France, Germany, Norway, London. They shot some on the stages up in England. So 44 days, 6 countries. That's quite a bit, jumping around all over the place. It's almost like a road movie. Hey, look at that.
That's right. It's a road movie. Oh, we did it.
The
3 Transmos road movie series. Let's talk about editing. Melanie Ann Oliver did the editing.
Some of the storytelling could be, some of the pacing issues could be editing. It's hard to say.
Where were the pacing issues for you, right? You say there's pacing issues. Where did you have a problem with it?
I think it is really just kind of the second act. I just felt like there were some elements in there that could have moved a little faster. I can't pinpoint anything, and that's always a sign that there's just something in the way that the story was structured and that it's just not moving as effectively as it could have been. And I just feel like something in the second act just kind of bogged things down a little bit for me. I don't know. I mean, you had mentioned the second act was kind of a little bit of a problem for you too. So I feel like there must be something there that's just kind of slowing it down. But I don't. Did you notice anything in particular? Or?
Well, there was the second act in leading up to her departure to actually have her first surgery, and then the stuff between surgeries. This was the problem that I had, and I think is more editing is more implicated in this section in the third act, which where the editing I think is responsible for making the space between the two surgeries downright unbelievable. What they were trying to sell me was that she was trying to rush the space between surgeries to actually so that she could just finish the job. The first surgery was to slice everything off, and then the next surgery was going to be to rebuild the new stuff. That was how they were going to do it back in the day, and that was the story they were trying to tell. But I did not find that I believed the passage of time between those two surgeries as being anything worthy of feeling intensely about.
Huh, interesting.
Does that make sense?
I think that does. I think that there's something there that kind of could be something that leaves it a little flat. And, I don't know if this is going to make it seem like it could have been stronger, but hearing about some of the story about Lili and how she really died was she actually really wanted a kid, apparently. And she'd already finished her surgeries, and she was trying to get a uteral implant. I'm not sure what they call it, but basically she was getting a surgery to have a uterus added so that, she could hopefully have a baby. And there was, I guess, complications in that, and that's what ended up leading to her death.
Wow.
That's a really interesting element that never gets explored in this particular film, other than I think Lili says a line at some point about, somebody asks about kids or something, and she's like, oh, maybe, or something like that. It's kind of an offhand remark.
I don't know.
But they played it in a way where, I don't know, I just feel like there's an element to that might have strengthened the story for me, given me a little more to latch onto, other than just this constant kind of going back and forth between Lili and Gerda as they were finishing up here, and maybe that's what it is like, as we were getting toward the end, Gerda kind of felt like she was good with everything and kind of going along, helping Lili with the process. And it just kind of felt like we kind of lost conflict. And that, other than the fact that Lili was changing, I think that might be it, actually.
It became just routine. That's it. I think that's the problem I had with it. They made it a routine relationship. Yeah. Oh, that's too bad.
Yep.
You know what I liked, though? Can I tell you what I liked?
What did you like?
The music.
Ah, yes, Alexander Desplat. A beautiful score. I really do think that this score was a very, very lovely.
I found it really reminiscent of The Piano, which is one of my very favorite scores, the Michael Nyman score, and I think there were a lot of very similar, not motifs, but similar styles and structures. Certainly similar orchestration. Lots of great piano stuff in this score.
Yeah, and I know that he had to work pretty fast to score this thing, and sometimes when these composers have very little time, they end up doing some amazing things. Yeah. So yeah, I he's just one of those one of my favorite modern composers working today, and yeah, I think he did a beautiful job.
Awards, Andy. How did it do in award season?
Oh, yes. Well, this film definitely got a lot of nominations, definitely for the performances. A few wins, and a number of them were really small wins. Of the bigger wins, Alicia did win supporting award for the SAG Awards. And as far as the Oscars go, it was nominated for 4. Best Actor, Eddie Redmayne. He lost to Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant. Best Costume Design, Paco Delgado lost to Jenny Beavan for Mad Max Fury Road. Best Production Design, Eve Stewart and Michael Standish lost to Colin Gibson and Lisa Thompson, also for Mad Max Fury Road. And then, of course, Alicia Vikander, who did win an Oscar for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. And so there's a few interesting little things here. First, I'm just going to jump back to Eddie Redmayne real fast because I think this is funny. He was nominated for an Oscar for his performance in this film. He was also nominated for a Razzie for Worst Supporting Actor for Jupiter Ascending, and he won the Razzie that weekend, and he lost the Oscar. Which is,
no,
which is really funny. So that's that one. But yeah, going back to Alicia and her Oscar win, this is these weird things about the politics of Oscars. And I just don't know if there's any rules about it. But what happened was the production company, or the distributor, Focus Features, they knew that there was this little movie out there called Room, that Brie Larson was amazing in it. And they were concerned that if they pushed Alicia as Best Actress opposite Brie, that she would lose because, again, everybody knew Brie was amazing in that film. We've talked about it. She was.
Sure.
And so they pushed her as Best Supporting Actress in this film. A lot of people see that as a category fraud because she has almost a full hour of screen time, almost 50% of the movie's length. She is in the film, and they say that qualifies her for a Best Actress Oscar. And I don't know what the other supporting actresses said, but Alicia refused to comment on the debate. She won her Oscar. And, it's just, I don't know if the Oscar, if the Academy actually has policies for things like this, but clearly it wasn't something that bothered them. And they she got away with it, and they pushed her as supporting actress across the board. And so anytime she was nominated, or won, it was always as supporting actress. It's weird. And I was wondering this as I was watching the film. I'm like, this doesn't seem like a supporting role. She's constantly in it. She's like the character we're following. So, weird.
What they should have actually been pushing Eddie as best actress. That would have been really brave. That's real courage.
That would have been awesome.
How did it do? Somebody's got to do it.
That's right.
How did it do at the box office?
The movie cost $15 million to make, which, it was only a few years ago. It's only $15.3 million in today's dollars. It had a limited Thanksgiving release on October. When is Thanksgiving? A limited Thanksgiving release
in October.
November 27th, 2015, opposite Creed, The Good Dinosaur, and Victor Frankenstein, before it had a wider release January 22nd, 2016. It went on to make $11.3 million domestically and $53.9 million overseas, giving it an adjusted gross of $65 million. This gives it an adjusted profit per finished minute of about $425,000, which is pretty good. When looking at the profit per cost of our series, though, this one ended up the least profitable for its investors, making only 4 times its budget, whereas Priscilla made nearly 12 times its budget, and Transamerica made 16.5 times its budget. Still, it's nice to see these films all found an audience.
That is really gratifying in a courageous theme of filmmaking. I have to tell you, I really enjoyed. I think I can say I really enjoyed all of these films, and certainly deeply grateful that we watched Transamerica. I thought that was a wonderful addition to my own catalog. Any closing thoughts on our transgender series here?
I really enjoyed all of the films also. I mean, Priscilla is just such a fun film to watch. I've always loved that one. And it was great seeing Transamerica again, just for the performances. This one, again, I really enjoyed to watch the performances. I don't know if I'll watch this one again. I found the story, it had some issues. It wasn't completely as engrossing. It just, it felt like a biopic, even if it's kind of a false biopic. It's an alternative fact biopic. That's what this is. And to that end, it was entertaining enough.
Oh, Andy, how timely. Your politics have oozed into our show.
That's what I'm here for. Alternative facts are for everybody, Pete.
They sure are. Oh, God. Well, you know what I feel like one of the things that I have taken away from this series is that there are a lot of other great transgender stories out there that I would love to talk about with you, and I think we should revisit this at some point. Keep the series alive, because I think there are some other great stories we need to add to the list.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of good stuff.
All right. Well, let's do it. It's time to rank it.
Let's do it.
Head on over to flickchart.com/thenextreel. You can swipe up in your podcast player of choice there, and I put all the links that you need right there. Just tap on the Flickchart link, and that'll take you straight to this movie, so you can add it to your catalog, your list, on flickchart.com. Here we go. Danish Girl, who's she up against?
First, she's up against Mad Max, 1979. I'm going with Mad Max.
Yeah, Mad Max is going to take her.
The Danish Girl or The Host?
I'm curious to what you will say, given your equal conflict.
You know how I feel about The Host, but I would probably watch The Host first. I mean, this has some great performances. It's really interesting, but I would still pick The Host.
I would absolutely watch The Host first.
The Danish Girl or Say Anything? I would do Say Anything.
Yeah, probably Say Anything. It's a conflicted Say Anything, though. I mean,
well, we had more issues with it, but still. Boombox,
okay,
all that.
Boombox, I know.
The Danish Girl or Marty? Everybody's favorite.
The Danish Girl. Please, The Danish Girl twice.
I might do Marty, actually.
Really? You might?
I might.
That was a might. I would watch The Danish Girl twice, and
all right.
You might watch Marty.
I'll give you The Danish Girl then. All right. Danish Girl or Christmas in Connecticut? Wow, that hasn't popped up in a while. I really enjoyed that one. I'm going to say Christmas in Connecticut.
I would watch Christmas in Connecticut.
The Danish Girl or Manhunt? Fritz Lang. I would go with Manhunt.
I would go with Manhunt.
Despite some of the goofiness of it.
I know.
Oh, this is an interesting one. The Danish Girl or Outbreak? Boy, did I have issues with that one this time.
That was so...
I would say The Danish Girl.
Helicopter. Oh my God, it was so stupid. I would also say The Danish Girl.
The Danish Girl or The Andromeda Strain? More virus.
Wow.
Movies. Yeah.
I would watch The Danish Girl.
So would I. All right. Well, there we are. 266.
Wow.
Way down
That's
there.
That's a pummeling.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
When I watch this, I did not expect that. Wow.
Well, we've talked about a lot of good movies.
Yeah. No, that's what we kind of hang our hat on at this point. But 266.
You know, I think it's just that it's an interesting film. There's really great performances, but I don't know. The film, it doesn't hold up very well. And it certainly, for me, isn't something that I have much interest in watching again. So I think that's why it ended up falling down and losing on some of those rankings.
Well, I had to watch this one alone, and I know that my family is very interested in watching it, and so we're going to be having a talk about it, and then I think watching it again in short order. I think we'll probably take it on in the next couple of weeks, and so I'm really curious how it'll stand up watching it in such close proximity, and if it'll impact my overall thinking about it. So I am sad that it's in the place that it is, just because I think Eddie Redmayne did such a fantastic job playing the role, and it's just that it couldn't overcome the weight of its own pacing.
We'll call this the Jupiter Ascending ranking. That's what he gets.
All right. That's fair. Where do we go from here?
We are going to be totally shifting gears, and we're going to jump into a director's series with director Zhang Yimou, which should be a fun little series. I'm really curious to see how this series shakes up, because Zhang Yimou has directed some really fantastic films, both over in China, also in now he's having kind of his, I guess it's kind of an English, it's not quite an English debut, actually. I was going to say that, but he did another film, and I'm blanking on the name of it. But The Great Wall, I'm really curious to see how the shift in his career has brought him to that particular film. We're actually kicking the film off with Judo, which he did in 1990, and then Raise the Red Lantern in 1991. Then we're going to jump all the way to 2003 and look at Hero before ending with The Great Wall. And so it's going to be an interesting look at his career over kind of a several decades. And I want to think that there's going to be something really magical about The Great Wall, and it's not going to be something that's completely laughable. It might be completely laughable, but who knows? It was a very expensive film. It might be something that's, I don't know. It could be a big flop. It could be a big moneymaker. Who knows what's going to happen with that crazy thing?
Well, you've certainly covered your bases.
Well, that was my goal. Oh man.
Well, I'm actually excited about it. In that I'm trying to really temper my expectations. I'm really excited about the first set of films in here because they are films that I'm very interested in watching back to back, right together. Assuming we can get them. I think Judo. There is a caveat around Judo. We're having a little bit of trouble getting our hands on Judo, so we may not actually hit that one right away.
Right, yeah, it's that's one that's not available unless you check it out from your library anymore. So
and our libraries are notoriously slow. Anyhow, this has been good, Andy. I can't wait to get that. It's actually leading up to my China trip. This is the last series we talk about before I am in China. So I'm considering this homework. The Great Wall is. It's homework for my China trip.
I like it.
I'm going to wear my armor, take my bow.
You can ask.
Right.
You'll be so informed when you ask questions about what's beyond. Why did you build this wall? Oh, I know that already.
Let me tell you about the dragons. Oh God, I gotta go to bed.
All right, I've got some barren landscapes I've got to go paint.
Amazon giveth, Andy.
As Amazon always doeth.
Why don't you go first?
Well, I've got a 1 star by Fred Tarburton, who just about a year ago watched this. He says, "Not my kind of movie. Wife and daughter wanted to see it, so I endured." Thank you, Fred. Thank you for enduring.
I wonder actually if it's actually Fred Tar Burton, because I've got Nancy Burton, and I'll bet that's the wife.
You think?
And she's talking about Fred Tar. That's what I'm imagining in my head.
That's brilliant.
Because Nancy says this movie is not for a broad range of audiences. Ain't that the truth, Nancy?
Oh, dear.
I guess I'm just too old-fashioned, she says, but watching a wife encouraging her husband to cross-dress and full frontal shots of Eddie Redmayne's junk is not my idea of a good movie. Jeez, to be fair, it's not the whole junk. It's not a full Andy, as they say.
The full Andy.
Never get tired of that.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Thanks, Amazon.
It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
Oh, I know, you're telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great conversations.
In Season 6, our Disease Films series had adaptations like The Omega Man, based on I Am Legend, The Andromeda Strain, Children of Men, and Blindness.
I Am Legend is so much better than The Omega Man.
What about the Will Smith version?
Don't get me started.
For our This Is Real Life Jack series, we talked Black Hawk Down and Seabiscuit, some great true stories based on fantastic books.
And we had more listeners' choices like The Fly, The Emigrants, and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
You just did a series on The Fly on the Sitting in the Dark podcast. Did you read the original material?
Wasn't watching every Fly movie enough?
Our Big Betty Davis series featured adaptations like The Little Foxes, Now Voyager, All About Eve, and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Are you calling Betty Davis big?
Only in personality and force.
She is a force to be reckoned with.
We talked about the entire The Godfather trilogy, of course. Iconic page to screen, even if it is just the one Mario Puzo book. I wonder if Coppola will ever make The Sicilian.
We also had some Zhang Yimou adaptations with Judo and Raise the Red Lantern. Absolutely gorgeous movies.
And don't forget the Hughes Brothers series with From Hell, based on the graphic novel. Brilliant material.
Kelly Reichardt gave us Wendy and Lucy and Certain Women, adapted from short stories.
Plus more Hayao Miyazaki as we tackled Howl's Moving Castle.
Find all these books and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every purchase supports the show.
Get the full list of adapted films that we've covered at thenextreel.com/originals and start your next read today.